No more OTAs, no more minicamp, no more joint practices. That's right, it is time. Let's take a deep dive into Pats-Raiders. It's week 1, and this is Locked On Patriots.
You are Locked On Patriots, your daily New England Patriots podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's happening? I am Nick Cattles, born and raised in New England. I've been covering the Patriots for the last 16 years. I'm also co-host of the Greg Bedard Patriots podcast with Nick Cattles and a sports talk show host veteran. On today's episode, we'll take a look into how the Pats will look to erase the Raiders' top offensive weapon, and we'll give you a warning about one matchup that nobody's talking about. But first, the Maye and McDaniels era begins on Sunday. We appreciate you joining the show, making us your first listen, and for being an everydayer. The Locked On Patriots podcast is a proud partner of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And the Patriots offense, I believe, will have opportunities on Sunday against this Vegas defense. Vegas, much like the Patriots, they've gone over a bunch of changes, and many of them defensively, and many would argue that they've downgraded in multiple spots. Let's start with the defensive backfield. Nate Hobbs gone. Jacorian Bennett gone. Trevon Moehrig gone. In is Eric Stokes, former first-round pick, has never fulfilled the potential. Darian Porter, young guy, didn't have a good preseason. Jeremy Chin, who played for Washington last year, is now in the defensive backfield for Vegas, and he's been playing nickel back in the preseason, which is certainly an interesting development. In linebacker, the Raiders lost Robert Spillane to the Patriots. They have a Landon Roberts, Jermaine Pratt. They're even trying to transition Jamal Adams from safety to linebacker. So many, many changes on this defense for the Raiders, and I don't think for the better. But the first question we have to ask and answer is, what is Vegas's scheme? Patrick Graham remains as the defensive coordinator from the prior coaching staff, but Pete Carroll comes in as a defensive coach. And their systems don't necessarily align perfectly, and you wonder, what will we see? Will we see more of Graham's defense, more of Carroll's defense, 50-50, mix and match? I will tell you that Patrick Graham loves getting pressure on the quarterback. The Raiders last year had the 11th highest blitz rate in the NFL. They blitzed over 26% of the time. They were 10th in the NFL in pass rush win rate. Evan Lazar at Patriots.com recently wrote about Graham's defense. Historically, they've played a good amount of man coverage. Last season, as a matter of fact, Vegas led the league by playing cover 0 on 10% of their defensive snaps. They ranked 6th in simulated pressure rate. Graham successfully generated pressure with scheme, tying for 5th in unblocked pressure rate last season. And when we think about this camp, we think about this preseason, we have to think about the young offensive linemen for the Patriots getting confused and allowing free rushers. And when you think about that, to go along with Graham's defense, tying for 5th in unblocked pressure last year, you could have some concern. Now, simulated pressure, if you're wondering, that's when you threaten with 5 or more blitzers, but you only send 4. And Graham will do that a decent amount. So if you're looking at Patrick Graham's defense, Drake Maye has to be ready. He's got to be ready for that pressure. He's got to be ready for the simulated pressure. He has to understand what the defense is trying to do before the snap. You also have to have very good communication along the offensive line, especially on the left side, blocking Maye's blind side when you've got Will Campbell and Jared Wilson. They have to communicate. Stunts, twists, simulated pressures, all the games that the Raiders are going to play, they have to communicate well. Meanwhile, Pete Carroll's scheme, what's that all about? Well, if you look at Pete Carroll's history, Evan Lazar writes, Carroll's roots as a defensive mind are in the Seattle 3 system. 4-man fronts, cover 3 structures behind that base defense. And in the preseason, the Raiders played a league-high 57.9% of their coverage snaps in cover 3. Now, if you look back to the history, Josh McDaniels has done a very good job against the Seattle 3 concepts. It's been a significant mismatch for McDaniels and the Patriots and McDaniels and the Raiders. He's been able to do many things against the Pete Carroll Seattle 3. Now, interestingly enough, McDaniels did tell the media on Thursday that Pete Carroll doesn't live by the Seattle 3 as much as he used to. So what scheme are we going to see? We have to watch it unfold on Sunday, but I would anticipate a blend of Graham and Carroll. All right, second part of this. Patriots offense against the Raiders defense. Let's talk about Maxx Crosby. You cannot allow Maxx Crosby to dominate this football game. That happened way too often in 2024. You would look at the best defensive player. You would go into that week and you would say, you can't allow that pass rusher, that defensive lineman to dominate the game. But somehow, some way, Alex Van Pelt allowed it to happen way too many times. Maxx Crosby is as good as they get. Last year, he was 9th in pass rush win rate, and he's not just a pass rusher. He's also really good against the run. How good? Crosby was 2nd in the entire NFL in edge run stop win rate. 2nd. He led the team in sacks, tackles for loss, quarterback hits, and he missed 5 games. He missed 5 games. He leads the NFL with 105 tackles for loss since entering the league in 2019. He also ranks top 5 in the NFL in sacks and quarterback hits since 2019. Now, don't get it twisted. Crosby's not a guy that's going to be playing against Will Campbell all day. He actually lines up the majority of the time against the right tackle. So this is going to be a Morgan Moses challenge for the most part. And I anticipate McDaniels helping Moses. I anticipate McDaniels trying to drive Crosby crazy by giving him different looks. I think the Patriots will chip him. I think the Patriots will double team him. I think the Patriots will call plenty of quick throws to get the football out of the hands of Drake Maye as fast as humanly possible. Don't invite that pass rush. And I also think that you'll see plenty of play action, kind of a staple of McDaniels, right? And you'll see that play action against the aggressiveness of Maxx Crosby and some of that Raiders defensive line. The other part of this offense that I think will cause some, frankly, damage against the Raiders is the running backs. Heavy running back usage. I would be ready for the running backs to be involved a significant amount against this Raiders defense. Now, I know they've got some different players, and I know that Carroll's in town now, but look back last year, the Raiders, second most missed tackles in the NFL, 134. They were 16th in yards per carry given up at 4.4. They were 18th in defensive rushing DVOA. So they were middle of the pack against the run, and I would just have to guess that Josh McDaniels and Mike Vrabel, who already love running the football, want to establish running the football and establish that tone. I only have to guess that they're going to run the football against this Raiders defense, or at least try to. And if you can get some early down success, you get that ball rolling, you put Drake Maye in advantageous positions, 3rd and short, 3rd and medium, that's when you can start going to work. And part of that work is not only the running backs running the football, but I also think it's the running backs catching the football. We've talked about all 3 backs. Stevenson has caught the football a lot during his career. You go back a couple of years ago, he had 65, 70 catches. Antonio Gibson, former wide receiver in college, and we all know about Travion Henderson and what he brings to the table as a pass-catching running back. So McDaniels, I would anticipate, is going to attack the linebackers and the safeties. He's going to attack Jeremy Chin if he's playing nickelback with those running backs. Wants to make their life miserable. And McDaniels against a Carroll-style defense, Evan Lazar had some of these numbers. Back in 2022 with the Raiders, their running backs against Seattle, they had 9 catches for 113 yards and a touchdown. You can also look at some other notable running back performances, according to Lazar, against Carroll-style defenses in Super Bowls. James White, 14 catches, 110 yards and a touchdown in Super Bowl 51. Shane Vereen, 11 catches, 64 yards in Super Bowl 49. White also hurt Gus Bradley's defense. Bradley, of course, from the Carroll tree. And you look at what White did in the 2018 divisional round, 15 catches, 97 yards. Running backs, and sprinkle in some tight end action down the seam. That's what I think we'll see on Sunday. And the Patriots will have that opportunity to move the football. They'll have the opportunity to score some points against this Raiders defense. All right, let's talk about the Patriots defense. With or without Christian Gonzalez, Vegas will test the Patriots. We'll tell you how next as we continue with today's episode of Locked On Patriots, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where making the right call can actually pay off. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right means cashing in. With football-backed Prize Picks, the simplest and fastest way to get in on the action. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player projections, and you can turn your takes into real prizes, all in less than 60 seconds. You can check out Prize Picks. Lately, it's such a fun way to stay locked in for the season. Quick, easy, and honestly, you can follow along with football so much better when you involve Prize Picks. And check out this week's max discounts. How about Lamar Jackson for over a half of passing yard? That's right. Check out the max discount. Lamar Jackson over a half a passing yard. Download the Prize Picks app today. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 play. Prize Picks, it's good to be right. Mazda crafts cars for those who choose to do more than simply move. They follow what moves them every time they drive, and that's what makes Mazda stand out. They go beyond safety, style, and performance to deliver a driving experience that feels alive in every detail. Mazda offers more than safety. It's won more than 2025 IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else. As an athlete, focuses on every detail. Mazda does the same, from metallic accents to hand-stitched Napa leather. It's the small details. And you can also feel it the moment you get behind the wheel. Smooth handling, intuitive controls, standard all-wheel drive in every crossover SUV. Again, it's about those small details that make the big plays. Whether it's a quick drive to practice or a weekend road trip, Mazda makes even everyday drives feel special. Just like there's more to every player, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. As much as the Patriots offense will have opportunities against the Raiders defense, I think the Raiders offense will also present some challenges for the Pats D. And Christian Gonzalez, again, did not practice on Thursday. I would imagine he is not going to play in this game. So your best player, your best defensive player is going to be out. I would have to imagine, like 99% confident. Maybe it has already come out by the time you watch or listen to this episode. So do not expect Christian Gonzalez out there, but let's go over 3 defensive keys. And you have to start with Brock Bowers. Bowers is by far the best Raiders offensive player. He is to the offense what Crosby is to the defense. He is a move tight end. And that means he's all over the place. Mike Vrabel spoke to WEEI earlier this week, and he said, quote, "You have to treat Bowers as a wide receiver. Know where he is, find him, and figure out what they're trying to do by the different locations they line him up in," unquote. Taylor Kyles posted about Brock Bowers this week. Bowers brings alignment versatility, he wrote, a wide receiver's change of direction and ball skills, and dangerous off-schedule and yak ability. Now, of course, we know throughout this camp, throughout the joint practices, throughout the preseason games, the Patriots have had some major issues defending tight ends. Now, maybe they weren't so worried about it because they were working on things. And maybe things will change when the season begins. But from what we have seen, read, heard, they've had problems with tight ends. And now you start the season against one of the best tight ends in football. So how will the Patriots defend Bowers? Are they going to defend him by committee? Throw a bunch of different guys at him? I mean, the Patriots had Marcus Jones defending TJ Hawkinson during the second Vikings joint practice, and that went horribly wrong. I can't imagine they're going to try to do the same on Sunday, but maybe I'm wrong. Will it be a committee? Will it be, Hawkins and Woodson and Jones and Davis and Austin and anybody out there that can play? Are you going to try to get physical with Bowers at the line of scrimmage from time to time with a linebacker? That's a dangerous game to play. So will it be committee versus Bowers? Will it be double teaming Bowers? I wouldn't be shocked if they threw some doubles at him, especially on third down. They could also just say, we're going to line Carlton Davis opposite of him, and we're going to roll with Carlton Davis. And if that hurts us through the first couple of drives, we'll adjust if we have to. You could put Davis on Bowers. You could put Alex Austin on Jacoby Myers, Marcus Jones in the slot, and handle it that way. Now, Terrell Williams brought up a very interesting point during his media session on Thursday. He talked about Bowers and said, look, this guy is a tight end. He's a tight end. He's a wide receiver, but he has a tight end body. So if you put a cornerback opposite of him, the Raiders are going to run the football, and they're going to run at the cornerbacks, and they're going to try to make the cornerback's life miserable. So that's something you have to keep in the back of your mind as we get ready for Sunday. It's just not as easy as plopping in a corner against Bowers and saying the job is done. We're good here. Moving on from Bowers, of course, you've got Jacoby Myers, but I want to focus on Ashton Jeanty because I do think you're going to see some high usage from Jeanty this year. You go back to last season, the Raiders were the best team when it came to having a terrible run game. Like if you look at what they did in 2024, 22nd in run block win rate, 32nd in yards per attempt, 32nd in yards per game, 31st in rushing DVOA. So what did the Raiders do after being miserable running the football in 2024? They got on the phone and they hired Chip Kelly. They brought Chip Kelly in and they drafted Ashton Jeanty with their top pick in the first round. Now, Chip Kelly, you think about his dynamic offense, you know, the fast, speedy kind of play. That's the Chip Kelly of old. Kelly now kind of calls old school football. And what I mean by that is Evan Lazar wrote, you know, Ohio State last year, Chip Kelly was the OC at Ohio State. And Lazar wrote about the Buckeyes offense. They were in the bottom half of the FBS in plays per game. They ran more under center concepts, and they actually incorporated more gap runs under Chip Kelly. And as Lazar points out, those adaptations suggest that Kelly's system is more pro-ready than it was the first time around. So Chip Kelly, his offense is based off the run game. They're going to try to establish it with Ashton Jeanty, and they're not going to go super quick like back in the day. They're going to try to grind you out a little bit in that run game. So what do the Patriots have to do? Well, Captain Obvious just walked into the room, and he says they need push from their defensive line. And Captain Obvious is right. They do need that push from the defensive line. They need to win in the trenches. And Mike Vrabel's been talking about that since he got the head coach job. So, yes, they need that push from the defensive line. The question is, can Milton Williams provide that push consistently? He played less than 50% of the snaps for Philadelphia last year because of his run defense. They were not comfortable having him out there more playing against the run. Christian Barmore has been managed all camp long. You know, so how much is he going to play? And is he going to be able to consistently win and push? I wouldn't be surprised if we see more Kyrie's Tonga than you might think. Tonga was brought in to be that interior defensive lineman, kind of stout against the run. He has been much better when it comes to rushing the passer than I think the Patriots ever thought he would be when they signed him. But I would not be surprised at all if Tonga gets more time than you might think. And the thing the Patriots have to watch out for, if you're being aggressive and you're concerned about the run, you got to watch out for the screen game. Tight ends, running backs. The Patriots had a miserable time defending the screen game throughout camp. And so that might rear its ugly head from time to time. Ashton Jeanty was a good receiving running back in 2023 at Boise State. Less so in 24. Does he go back to those 2023 vibes? I think he might. You might see some of that. So screen game, tight ends, running backs, trying to put the linebackers and the safeties in positions that they're uncomfortable. The one thing the Patriots can do to make the Raiders uncomfortable is get that pass rush going. And, you know, during camp, we've discussed this. The Patriots pass rush has looked really good. Harold Landry has that first step back. Kayvon Chason had a terrific camp. You would hope that Barmore and Williams on the interior get the job done. We just talked about Tonga being a better pass rusher than I think this team thought that he was going to be during this camp season. So get some pass rush. Patriots, one of the worst pass rushing defenses in all of football. You could argue they were the worst pass rushing defense in football last season. Vegas has a pretty good offensive line. Not great, spectacular, but pretty good. They're going to have to get some pressure. Geno Smith is not the same quarterback, and this could be said for every quarterback, but he is certainly not the same quarterback when you have some pressure on him. From a clean pocket, Evan Lazar points out, he's been one of the better passers in the league from clean pockets in recent seasons, and he absolutely tore up the Patriots last year. They gave him clean pockets, and he ripped them up. Had the fourth best passer rating and fourth best QBR of his season against the Patriots in 2024. Threw for over 300 yards and completed 75% of his passes. You certainly don't want that on Sunday. Man, there's so much to talk about with this game. We still have to get to Will Campbell, and we also have to get to the one matchup that could create chaos that nobody's talking about. All that next as we continue with today's episode of Locked On Patriots, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. Let's talk about Craig Woodson, who delivered in a big way in the preseason. Woodson showed great versatility, making Mike Vrabel and the coaching staff feel comfortable releasing Jabril Peppers. You could also talk about Travion Henderson and how terrific he was during the entire camp and how excited everybody is about Henderson's rookie season. And just like Craig Woodson and Travion Henderson delivered for the team, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you could save every Saturday you order, stack it up all season, and you could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. The promo period is through November 18th. Check out DoorDash. There's so much history between these two teams. It's kind of crazy when you look at it. We can't even get into it, really. But Pete Carroll, former Patriot. We all know that. Josh McDaniels, former Raider. Patrick Graham, former Patriot. I mean, we have gone through it over and over. A lot of different players, former Patriots, now Raiders. A lot of different players, former Raiders, now Patriots. It's a very interesting dynamic when you look at the rosters and the coaching staffs. And, of course, we got the golden tuck rule from a long time ago. But let's get to Will Campbell, because Will Campbell makes his official NFL debut. I know he's been out there for preseason games, but this game matters on Sunday. Finally, a football game that matters. And, by the way, speaking of Sunday, we will be going live shortly after the game on Sunday. So you don't want to miss that. We'll have a post-game show for you. You do not want to miss that coming up on Sunday. But Will Campbell will debut on Sunday for the Patriots. And as we mentioned earlier, he's not going to see Maxx Crosby. At least I would not expect him to see Crosby a bunch. Crosby will move from time to time, but the majority is against the right tackle. So the challenge for Campbell will be Malcolm Koonce and Tyree Wilson. And Koonce is returning from an ACL tear and surgery. He tore his ACL in August of 2024. Back in 2023, he had 8 sacks and 23 pressures. He was a name that was brought up during the Patriots offseason as a possible fit for the Pats. Pats signed Chason instead of Koonce. You also have Tyree Wilson, who took a step forward last year. 37 pressures, the second most on the team, 4.5 sacks, a 10% win rate, and 6 tackles for loss. So Will Campbell, pretty decent challenge week one. Malcolm Koonce, Tyree Wilson, I think those guys will rotate against the rookie. I want to get to a matchup that I feel could create chaos for the Patriots offensive line that I don't think enough people are talking about, and that's old friend Adam Butler. I just mentioned former Patriots who are now Raiders and former Raiders who are now Patriots. Butler's one of those guys, former Patriot, now Raider. And in 2024, he was effective. Interior defensive lineman. He was 16th in the NFL in pass rush win rate. He was also 6th. He was 6th overall in interior defensive lineman run stop win rate. So he was good against the pass, getting pressure, and he was really freaking good against the run. And we have to get ready for Garrett Bradbury, Jared Wilson, your rookie left guard, your center who had issues against the pass rush last year for Minnesota. I would say had a mostly down camp. And this is a good challenge for him right out of the gates. And you certainly don't want that pressure up the gut against Drake Maye. So I want to pay special attention to Adam Butler, Garrett Bradbury, Jared Wilson. Can Wilson and Campbell and Bradbury, the biggest questions I would think on this offensive line, could they all do the job on Sunday? Campbell against Kuntz and Wilson, and then you've got Wilson and Bradbury against Adam Butler and company. Another question I have, Stefon Diggs, how much is he going to play? How many snaps will he get? Now, it was interesting when Drake Maye spoke to the media on Wednesday. He said that he had noticed Stefon Diggs elevating with a game approaching, and you wonder if there was a little bit of a rope-a-dope from Stefon Diggs during this camp. And, you know, he's just kind of balancing it out, understanding I don't have to go 100 miles an hour throughout the entire camp. I've been in the NFL for a long time, and I understand you get off to a good start. There's that kind of middle that you just deal with. And then as you get closer to the games that count, you start to ramp up. And from the sounds of it, Drake Maye wants us to believe that Diggs has started to ramp up, getting ready for week 1. Now, what does that mean? How many snaps will he play? Diggs was asked, are you expecting to be on a pitch count? And he said, heck no. Now he laughed it off, but he said, I don't know. I don't make the rules. We'll see how it goes, but I really hope not. When it comes to Diggs, my advice to everybody is just temper expectations. I know there was talk early in camp about, hey, you know, he could catch 80 passes, 90 passes. He could catch 100 passes. I am going to try to handle Diggs with the most reasonable expectations that I can handle him with. ACL surgery is legit. He's in his 30s. I think the fact that he's playing on Sunday is already a win for the Patriots. How many of us thought Diggs would be out there week 1? Now, if you go back a month and a half ago, of course we started to feel better about that. But when Diggs signed in March, I don't think anybody expected him to be ready for week 1 and being a part of this offense, if not a big part of this offense. So I'm tempering my expectations. I want to see how many snaps he gets on Sunday. I want to see how those snaps gradually improve, which I think will happen. He'll gradually get more and more snaps throughout the first month. And then you get to week 6, week 7, and that's when I feel a little bit more confident that Diggs will be closer to what Diggs was last year with Houston if he's going to have that opportunity. So temper the expectations. The fact he's out there on Sunday is a win. Anything he does for you is a win. Now, the other wide receivers, it's interesting. What's their usage? I mean, is Pop Douglas going to play as much if the Patriots try to get the run game going? Do they trust him and his size in the run game? They might not. Matt Collins, Kayshon Boutte, that battle for the third guy. Do they split 50-50? We'll see. Kyle Williams, does he get any snaps on Sunday? I would have to think he gets some. By the way, I do think Pop Douglas could have a good game on Sunday and be very effective, especially against Jeremy Chin, especially against some of their other safeties. And if they can get him lined up against some linebackers, if McDaniels plays some games, I think Pop could have a good, if not very good day on Sunday. Another question, we're going to ask this every week until he proves that he can. Can Drake Maye take care of the football? Now, one turnover you can live with. You don't want it. But if we're talking 2-3 turnovers, that's a problem. Maye has to take care of the football. Something else to keep an eye on, Q Myers, my buddy during the crossover, the last episode, he mentioned that Geno Smith and this Raiders offense, they're going to try to stretch the field. They want to attack defenses downfield. The Raiders offense has not done that the last few years. They're going to try to do that this year, which of course means Jalen Hawkins and Craig Woodson, they have to be responsible on the back end. GTFB, don't get beat. Don't be surprised if we see a decent amount, if not a lot, of 2 tight end sets from Josh McDaniels, especially against this defense. I'm interested, as I said earlier, how much will Milton Williams play? How much will Christian Barmore play? And week 1 is big. Week 1 is big when it comes to effort and finish, which is something that Mike Vrabel has preached from day one. As a matter of fact, Vrabel had his practice script include a break followed by 2 team periods to highlight the importance of winning the second half of the game on Sunday. And Vrabel previously told the media that 12 of the 16 week 1 winners from last year won the second half of their games. So effort through all 4 quarters, finish strong. I got the Patriots winning 27-23. I think they get the job done. Tight game, tough game. Don't really know what to expect because it's game number 1, but I got the Pats. Again, 27-23. That wraps up this edition of Locked On Patriots. Thank you for making us your first listen and for being an everydayer. Reach out to me on Twitter, will you? At Nick C Radio. And don't forget to throw a comment in on the YouTube channel. That helps us with the algorithm. Hit that like button and subscribe. Thank you for making Locked On Patriots your first listen today. For your second listen, check out the Locked On NFL season previews on Locked On NFL. Be the most informed NFL fan. Find the link in the description to the Locked On NFL playlist on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And I will see you on Sunday after the game.